Hey guys, welcome back. It's Landon with 3 Sides of the Cube. Today we're going to be talking about our list that we took to LVO for the Tyranids. So first we're going to go over the list, what faction it is, what the army was supposed to do, and then we'll talk about the matches that we played. So this was my first time going to LVO. Had a blast playing all sorts of different players, all sorts of different armies. Tyranids is my favorite faction, so that's what we took. And we played Hive Fleet Kronos. So we took Hive Fleet Kronos for one specific reason. We could take the extra inches for shooting, but also the biomorphology Synaptic Ganglia. So that made all of our psychic abilities have a 3-inch extended range for smites, for all of the things that we were trying to cast for psychic interrogation. So in this army, we took 7 psyker units. So we were very psyker heavy, trying to do a lot of mortal wounds. We were doing a couple of buffs like Catalyst and Onslaught, but for the most part we were just casting Smite all the time. So let's go over the units really quick. We took 3 HQ units. We took a Hive Tyrant, who was the Warlord. He just had the Death Spitter cannon, not the nice Venom cannon. We didn't really have the points or the CP to take the nice shooting, but it was okay. His job was to sit at the back objective, protect it, shoot a little bit, but if something came in and tried to steal our objective in our deployment zone, he was there to fight back. He's a strong fighter, really hard to remove, and he did that for pretty much most of the games that we played. Our next HQ is a Swarm Lord. This army that we took doesn't have any troops in it. It's an elite heavy army. We had 7 different elite units. So our biggest weakness was that we don't have objective secure. So the Swarm Lord was there to give our core units, which are Zoanthropes, Venomthropes, and Carnifexes, objective secure, so that we could keep objectives or steal them back just to score them in our command phase, which works out really well. We put him in the list about 2 months before LVO and was really testing it really heavily, and I really like how it worked out. And also the Swarm Lord, man, when he gets into combat, so many attacks, AP -4, flat 3 damage, just really amazing model. He is expensive, but if played right, he can really earn those points back for you and can be a really good unit. Our third HQ that we took was a Neurothrope, one of the best HQs in the Tyranid Codex. Not much to explain here, it's just so amazing. It has +1 to cast all the time. This was our model that was doing the psychic interrogation most of the time, because the only way to fail is on double ones. So really good unit. Plus he has the warp siphon that heals up all the Zoanthropes that we took, which we'll get into that next. We took a lot of Zoanthropes. We took 3 3-man units of the Zoanthropes. We were maximizing as much as we could on trying to be at different parts of the board and just putting out those really powerful smites to deal out the mortal wounds. You can have more in the unit, but we were taking 3 because you can only get a max of +3 to cast and +3 mortal wounds when they do smite. So we were trying to divide that out and really just kind of put on the pressure in turn 1 by just doing those 21-inch smites, which was really strong. Mortal wounds is one of the best thing in the game right now. So that's what this army was, its focus. So like I said, we had 3 of those Zoanthrope units, which were core and could become objective secure. And then we had 2 3-man Venomthropes. These guys, and their role in the army was to raise banners. So they were running around raising banners, but also they have that -1 to hit aura that they were protecting Zoanthropes and really important units as they were holding objectives. They were also core, so they could become objective secure, which happened quite a bit. But they were my infantry unit to run around and do actions and score points. And they're phenomenal. I really love them. They have 5 attacks per piece, which is a lot. And they poison attacks, so they wound on a 2-up. So they can put out quite a few wounds. If you're playing against Armor of Contempt, it's only -1 AP, 1 damage. So sometimes, those get shrugged off. But that wasn't really their role. Their role was to go around and perform actions and also give out that -1. Worked out really well. Some armies dealt with it really well. Emperor's Children, they don't ignore modifiers. We're going to talk about that matchup here in a little bit. But for most armies, if they don't have something to give a plus to their shooting, or it can be kind of punishing. So we also took an Exocrine, which is one of the best shooting models in the Tyranid Codex. It's a Terminator killer. It does flat 3 damage. It can have exploding 6s with the stratagem and ignore cover, benefits of cover, just a really good body. He's T8 with a lot of wounds. He's really hard to remove. So he's probably the only shooting model that we had besides the Hive Tyrant in the list, just because he's so good. Other than that, our main damage focus was in the psychic phase. And then to finish off the list, we took a Maleceptor. Once again, really tough body, really good invuln. His job was to charge up the middle of the board every single game and be pretty close to units, so that when he does his psychic powers, he does additional mortals to something that's 12 inches around him. But with the Synaptic Ganglia that we gave him for the whole faction, it was a 15-inch range. So pretty strong. We would give him the 3 dice with the Neurothrope's ability in the command phase, so that every time he did his psychic test, we could roll 3 dice and try to get 7 or better, so that we could overload. And he did a lot of work. Really good model. He can be okay if he gets into melee. He's not amazing, but he can fend for himself. But if anything got close to him, we were just doing additional mortal wounds every single time we did a psychic ability, which is amazing. And then to finish off, we did Screamer Killers. Screamer Killer Carnifexes. They are my favorite unit in the Codex right now. They're super strong. I don't know why they're not being played more. They just hit so hard. When they charge, they get 11 attacks, minus 3 AP, 3 damage. There were so many instances at LVO where we were hitting into Grotesques or Terminators or Bikes, where these guys were just shredding through them. The flat 3 damage is amazing. They also have a little ability that kind of came into play a little bit. Every time they remove a model, it's -1 to their leadership for morale. It came into play sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. Just kind of a nice little bonus. But these models are amazing. They're -1 damage when they receive damage. They also don't bracket, which I think is so strong. Someone would charge in there first sometimes, bring them down to 2 or 3 wounds, and it doesn't matter, because we can just hit back just as hard as if we were on full wounds. These guys come in as 3 models, and then they split up, so you can put them at different areas of the board. If you're playing Jormungandr, you can deep strike them anywhere on the board. They do have a shooting profile. It's not amazing, but it's just kind of a bonus. D6 shots, -4 AP, 1 damage. Sometimes it was really good to finish off something that maybe had 1 wound. But man, they're just amazing. I love them. They didn't get a points increase for Arc of Omens, so I think they're going to get played a lot more. We're going to be looking at playing a Gorgon list probably in this next block. And the Exocrine and Carnifexes, you know, they both didn't get the points increase. And I think those are models that we're going to definitely be still using in this next block. So the army worked out really well. In general, we're supposed to kind of jump out, do a lot of mortal wounds, and slowly grab those objectives. We were taking Raise the Banners, Psychic Interrogate, and pretty much either no prisoners or bring it down, depending on which army we were facing. But those were the 3 secondaries that this army was designed to try to score points on and do really well. The Psychic Interrogate was really good because we could score CP if we beat their leadership. So that's what the army was trying to do, and it did pretty well. So let's talk about the matches that we faced. In round 1, on day 1, we played a Emperor's Children list, which for me was a first. They took with them the Dreadclaw Drop Pod, which can deep strike on turn 1. They had also the Terax Pattern Termite Drill. So that's that Forge World Drill looking unit that can also come up from deep strike and release something really close. They had a Demon Prince, a Lord Discordant, which, oh my goodness, very, very tough model. Had Flamer attacks, 14 attacks in total, I think, when it gets into melee. Just a really, really good model, and it was able to get through some of our Carnifexes and some of the other things that hit really hard, but just a really, really good model in general. They also had lots of cultists to hold the objective for them, lots of possessed and noise marines, which are just really, really good right now. They're even going to get even better in the Arc of Omens block. So this army, they got turn 1, and we only had one big terrain piece to kind of hold us and give us a, protect our army in round 1. So most of my army was all kind of centered in one spot, and in turn 1 they just deep struck all those units really close by, and just kind of kept us on our back objective the whole game. We did pretty good. We did a lot of damage. The army did the damage that it was designed to do, but unfortunately we just were lacking primary points, because he kept us all the way in the back of the board for the first couple of turns and just kept that pressure on, as well as doing an enormous amounts of damage. That rock drill thing that comes up, it has those meltas on it that were just amazing. And yeah, just the army was really good in general. This player ended up going into the 8th position all the way to the end of the tournament. So they got all the way up to 8th place. So we played that guy on round 1. We lost, but just a really fun game. It was the first time I had played Emperor's Children against them. So it was really fun. And then our second game, we played a Yunari list, which also was something that I hadn't played yet. Really fun list. This guy was running the Void Raven Bomber, the Wraith Fighter, and the Incarn. Wow, the Incarn was the MVP for sure. When a unit died, the Incarn can jump anywhere on the board, hits really hard. He was just playing it just right to put him where he needed to be for the next phase. It was a really good list. We both were doing lots of damage. It felt like we were both picking up models on each other's turns. But once again, this army was just a little bit better with the objective secure and holding objectives, and beat us out a little bit on those primary points. And yeah, we lost our first 2 games, but we won the next 4 rounds with this army. So we went 4-2 total. In round 3, we played a Ravenwing player, which was a super fun list. They had an all bike list. So just as many bikes with plasma and melta as they could fit in a list. They were running around super fast, and it was a super fun game. But unfortunately, this army has no protection against psychic or mortals. So we were able to just kind of pick up bikes whenever they came into view with our smites. This mission had sticky objectives, so once we controlled an objective, we could walk off of it and just put on the pressure. And we were able to deny so many points and win that game. But it was a really fun list and a really fun player we played against. And that was day 1 for LVO. And then on day 2, in round 4, we played another Ravenwing list. It was so crazy. Statistically, all the armies that were there weren't that many Ravenwing players. But to play 2 different players back to back like that, I was shocked. But we played another Ravenwing list. This was an all vehicle list again, but not just bikes. He was running the couple Thunder Strikes, a couple Dark Talons, and a couple of those Land Speeders. This army performed a little bit better than the other Ravenwing army we played, because those bigger vehicles, their shooting was a lot better, and they were able to pick up some Carnifexes on a couple rounds. We once again felt very back and forth in this game, where my psychic damage would just do a lot, but then in his shooting phase he could just do a lot of damage as well. But we were able to come out on top about 20 points ahead in the end. We were scoring our secondaries, focusing on what mattered, and it worked out really, really well. This was also the mission where controlling the center gave you extra primary points, and so we focused on that center with the Maleceptor and a couple of our key units, giving those guys objective secure, Carnifexes and Venomthropes, just to try to hold those objectives. And holding the center for most of the game gave us the extra points that we needed to really kind of come out on top. And then in our 5th round, we played a Drukhari player. So John here on 3 sides of the cube, he plays Drukhari. So I've had a lot of practice against some of the Drukhari lists. It is a little bit tougher for this list specifically against Drukhari, because those grotesques and some of those units are just really hard to remove. But man, once again, the Screamer Killer Carnifexes really came out on top for us in this game. We were able to move like 3 or 4 grotesques every time they got into combat with the Carnifexes. We were just doing really, really well. And then The Drukhari player unfortunately had a couple bad dice rolls where they were trying to charge in there with Lilith and a couple of their key units to just really kill our Exocrine and some things off, and they just failed their charge rolls. So we were able to pick them up in the next Psychic phase. And our Swarmlord, man, our Swarmlord survived on 1 wound for like round 2 to round 5. It was amazing. He just made all of his saves. So yeah, just a really good game. It was really close, but we came out on top and won that match against Drukhari. And then our very last matchup was actually played against a friend that I know, that I play with in Idaho. His name is Kyle, and he was playing Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns is what we were expecting to face for most of our lists. I know they're super popular right now. The Tzeentch Flamers, everybody's playing them while they still can before they get their rules change. So our army was teched exactly against Thousand Sun lists and heavy Psyker lists to really punish them. So in that matchup, we were able to come out on top. We just kind of controlled the Psychic phase, both on our opponent's turn and our turn. The Synaptic Ganglia that we chose with Kronos gives us an additional, we can reroll the Deny the Witch test. So that was really strong because we could try to deny Psychic powers with 7 units and try to roll twice for it. So we really denied, all of his Psychic abilities. And then the Kronos, another reason why we picked Kronos, there is a stratagem, an epic deed stratagem with the Kronos faction called the Deepest Shadow. And against Thousand Suns, it is very punishing. As soon as they fail a Psychic test, we pay 1 CP, and then they suffer Perils of the Warp. And because we also have Shadow in the Warp, they suffer an additional mortal wound every time they Perils. And then every time they fail subsequently after that, they continue to take Perils just for failing their Psychic test. So this was really strong because they just had to be 18 inches within one of our Kronos units, and we could just keep punishing for it. It was only 1 CP. So it was just really strong, and we were able to keep Thousand Suns in check and win our last match. So overall, the army performed exactly how we wanted it to. There were just those first 2 matches where we were just kind of getting locked in and not able to jump forward and get those primary points. So overall, I was pretty happy with how the list did and how we played at LVO. Looking forward, we're probably going to be looking at making some lists with Gorgon. I think that faction is going to become one of the stronger factions in the Tyranid lists in this next Arc of Omens block. But also at 3 sides of the cube, I play Necrons, Tau, and we just got a bunch of Genestealer Cult units that we're putting together for you guys. So we're going to be previewing these armies. We're going to be doing some list building with you guys, and doing some battle reports for sure to show you Arc of Omens coming up. So thanks for being with us. We're going to have John and Pat also do their experience at LVO and how their armies did. John took Thousand Suns, and Pat took the Adeptus Mechanicus. So subscribe and follow, and those notifications when they post their armies and how they did LVO, it will notify you guys. But thanks for watching with us, and thank you guys for your support. It was really fun. I saw a few of you guys at LVO. You guys came up and said, hey, you're from 3 sides of the cube. So it was a blast. It was good to play the players and talk with everybody there. Just a really good fun event. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next video.